Right. Hi guys, Kim and Ginger here. Um,
Hi.
we've been absent, I know, but lots and lots of stuff going on in real life, and the word that I think relates to it is obfuscate. Do you know the word obfuscate, Ginger?
Well, I do. And it kind of reminds me of a word that I don't think I should say.
Go on, say it.
Oh, no. Cla Nah, it's not a very well. Okay, so it starts with cluster
Oh yeah.
and it sounds like truck at the end.
Okay. Yeah. 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 That's it. And it's like finding your way through the current reality is like walking through treacle because
Yeah.
everything there's so much information that you don't know what to believe and what not to believe. And even when you take something on, you think, "Oh, I'm going to believe that," then something comes through and you think, well, maybe that's not right. And it's like you can't put your faith in anything because it may or may not be so. And it's just like too much information everywhere you go and not enough.
Well,
Communication's
and
really hard.
especially now with AI is such an active creator in our lives. How can we possibly know if it was a monk in Tibet or if it was an AI just last week that somebody plugged it in, can you do my homework, that created this whole new narrative?
Yeah.
It's too easy
Yeah.
for us to create with words now. And as we do this, what are we creating?
I agree. I agree. So, right. So there was a couple of things that we wanted to talk about that we've been kind of chatting about. And one of the ones, and I'm going to name this video this, is Ginger's new favorite saying that she says to me all the time is, "You do you, boo."
Well, I feel like that's where we're at in the story. I've had a terrific, I've had a terrific case of the giggles lately.
All right. So
And
explain you do
this
you, boo.
observer mode, it's from being in observer mode. It's like, oh, I used to really try hard to help people and walk them through things that I thought they needed to walk through. But I've learned that I know nothing.
Yeah. That's what I've
You
learned as
know,
well.
Oh yeah, everybody's happy doing what they're doing, and what do I know? I can only really manage my own actions, and even that is a challenge at times.
So,
So I just sit back and watch, and in the Bible, it's in Revelations 22:10. That was my interpretation of that part of it, is you do you, boo.
all right. So hold on. I've got 22:10 up here. So I'm going to read it out because not that we're particularly religious, but I
No, I
have.
did find it interesting though. Somebody shared it with me the other day, and that's just my synopsis of it. But you're right, I say that all the time. You do you, boo.
All right.
Whatever you need. Go ahead.
So what you're saying is you do you, and then she's adding boo on the end of it. But I really like it. I think we
I
should
do too.
start like a whole thing of you do you, boo.
I think you're
Okay.
right.
So what Revelations 10 is, because she was talking to me about it the other day, and I brought it up. Then he told me, "Do not seal up words of the prophecy of this scroll, because the time is near. Let the one who does wrong continue to do wrong. Let the vile person continue to be vile, and let the one who does right continue to do right, and let the holy person continue to be holy." So that's
Yeah,
her interpretation of you do you, boo. Just
that is.
let it all go. And
I
then
think it fits.
on the continuation of that, we were then talking about this energy that people have of just like coming alive, like the people are like dead, right? Like dead is wrong term, but they're like,
Well, not really, considering we wake up every morning.
yeah, and we get
The
into the
wake, the
day,
wake, the morning, and
we
the
awake,
the
yeah,
the sleep. What
yeah.
is that?
All
Anyway,
right. So what we were talking about is coming across people who appear to be just, and I know that this common world phrase at the moment is NPC, It's been
Yes.
bandied about a lot, but so you come across these NPCs, right? But then you suddenly have a conversation about something, and I've got this friend of mine who loves talking about cleaning, and she just like it's like, oh my god, I've got this fantastic new cleaning product. You've got to try it. It gets my windows so clean. But she absolutely shines when she talks about it, and I mean, I laugh just because it's just such a, I don't know. It's like really cleaning, but
You do you. Ooh.
you do you, boo. Yeah. But you was talking about somebody that you'd met, um, that wanted, I don't know, something to eat or something. What were you talking about?
Oh, well, back, help me, Kim. Bring more.
All right.
What was?
So somebody come to the store that you're working at and ask for a particular thing, particular sweet thing to eat.
Oh, wow. It
And
was quite an experience. I watched as this person shapeshifted right before my eyes. They came in a bit of a frail and elderly state and just wanted butter tarts. That's all they wanted. They just wanted the butter tarts. And I felt for them and I actually offered them soup as an option. We had a nice pot of hot soup, and being so sensitive, I was actually a little concerned for their well-being. And I noticed as this woman was purchasing the nut, so she wasn't happy with any of it, but she purchased anyway. And she went from this frail and weak looking and angry old woman, and she became young and vibrant right before my eyes as we connected on just one word. There's one thing that she said, and I said, I'll agree with that. And then we got off onto a conversation about energy and from their nature. And from there, she told me that she had lived with an Aborigine woman for 9 years, and that she's a writer, and that she's also a teacher. And as she's telling this story, she absolutely, her avatar completely transformed. She absolutely lit up and came to life as she told me this powerful story of how, when she was a teacher, they would not let her share the story of her 9 years with the students. And so she said, but I wasn't going to be stopped. Knowing what I know, she said, about energy and how we are nature, she says, I wouldn't be stopped.
mm,
And she said, I decided to tell the story a little differently. She says, I just spoke of nature instead.
mm,
And it was just so touching. I became quite emotional, which I don't normally do. I'm pretty resilient, and I call it leaking. When you cry, I don't
mm,
leak very often, but
mm.
boy, she brought tears of joy to my eye as she shared
Oh,
that story. And also
beautiful.
shared that she is intending to write a book. She has written a book and is just simply looking for an illustrator. So, quite a fascinating conversation at my little market.
Mm, wow.
What I witnessed was what really, I think, made me most emotional, because I could see energy in action.
Somebody who's 1 minute looks like something and then activates this thing that she's passionate about and becomes something completely different. Like becomes
Completely
the
different.
true essence of self.
Correct.
Mm,
Correct. And was in such a low vibration that, I would not have recognized her. I wouldn't describe her the same at all. From start to finish, it was a totally different person
yeah.
from my point of view.
Okay. So the next thing I wanted to talk about was the dreaded green frog. So I've been reading quite a lot of stuff about this green frog, and I don't know if this is true. Like I said, we're living in living in a time of of obfuscation, or cluster F, as you put it. So, but see, this has come across my thing, and I thought it was worth mentioning. So, this is a little green frog, and this little green frog is appearing on all of these supermarket things that you buy, like PG Tips tea in that case, or I don't know what that is, cocoa, or and it's called a Rainforest Alliance certification, and it looks like it's been certified by some sort of like really cool, uh, eco-friendly, I don't know, natural. It looks very natural, right? But
Does
then I was reading stuff about it. I kept coming across this stuff, and it was saying it's really bad, saying that it's got it relates to crops that have been sprayed with these mRNA, um, DNA altering, um, like part of the vaccine stuff, and that
Mhm.
this little green frog is not what it appears to be at all. So anyway, so the one I listened to was talking about tea bags, and I went to the cupboard and I pulled out all the tea bags, and every single packet of tea bags I had in my cupboard, regardless of whether or not they were healthy option ones, had this little green frog on them. So I chucked them all out, and then I went in search of buying products that didn't have the little green frog on it. But it's on
It is
chocolate, it's on all kinds of stuff. It's on um so anyway, I was mentioning this, talking about this to a friend, and then she said, "Oh, there's stuff about frogs in the Bible." So and then I mentioned it to Ginger about the frogs in the Bible, and she goes, "Yeah, yeah, there's a mention of frogs in the Bible about the frogs, the mention of frogs in two contexts. In Exodus 8, as a second plague, in Revelation 16, where evil spirits look like frogs. Um, so that could be like a stamp on a product saying this product's evil or something, technically.
correct.
I'm just kind of ad-libbing here. But there was this little picture of these three frogs that you shared with me on our feed, and this one here. And it said, I saw three unclean spirits like frogs came out of the mouth of the dragon and out of the mouth of the beast and out of the mouth of the false prophets. Revelation 16:13. Um,
Which made me think of, having a frog in your throat,
yeah.
you know, clearing your throat and the need for us to clear our throat chakra. And I also went immediately to these Irish women and Australian women who I guess have been told to be silent. So there's quite a large movement of women saying, oh no, we won't be doing that. It's a great way to get people to open their throat chakras to tell them that they can't talk,
I didn't know what he was
so
talking about with that. What Australian women that can't talk? Can you
that's so interesting that you haven't heard of that. To my
no?
attention. Yeah, there's one, I believe it's coming up in Australia. And so there's a movement to silence the women in a few different countries. Ireland, I think, was first. And yeah, there's a number of really cool people that I know are protesting and saying, oh, like hell, we're going to be silent. Well, what I find interesting about that is that this is maybe the push that the silent majority needs. Maybe this is the chaos to be told that you better not talk. You be quiet, you know.
Yeah.
You're not allowed. I mean, that's going to backfire. And I guess my only concern will be what will we all say? What will we all have to say? What are we going to create as we all open that throat chakra and clear that frog from our throat? We
Mm,
are the dragons. We are the dragons. We've been dealing with the false prophet. Think about the prophet. What is the other word for prophet? What does it mean?
uh,
There's only one
gaining
percent of
money,
us. Correct. There's only
gaining
one
money.
1% of us profiting here.
Yeah.
If we're going
Yeah.
to get political, there's only a very small portion of us profiting.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I feel it's about clearing that throat chakra. Here comes the big blue kachina.
Mm. I mean I find it to some degree, yeah, it's good to verbalize where you're at, but and the second portion, a lot of the time there's nobody listening. I'm
Oh
finding
yeah, that's
I'm
right.
finding less and less energy towards speaking out at all. I'm finding I'm
And that
going and I'm not saying anything.
that's why I feel like, we're at Revelations 22:10 part in the story.
Yeah.
The same thing. It's nothing new under the sun. I've said it 100 times. The story goes on and on. And
Yeah.
the story that we experienced once before is happening right now. we're experiencing it slightly differently than we did before. Each time it's like one big old Groundhog Day, but with a slight twist.
Mm, okay. So the guy next door came over this morning and I made him a hot chocolate and he was getting a bit profound with me and said he'd had this thought whilst meditating and what the thought was that there's no such thing as personal choice, that we have the appearance of having choice. And then we kind of went into, I mean, he's talking about the real kind of like what we came here to do or why are we here at all? That that kind of big question, that sort of huge question.
I think we've
Um,
all got that big question. It's kind of like the chicken and the egg. And for me, I used astrology to try to get to the bottom of it. But, there's no getting to the bottom of it from my point of view.
no. But you can have speculations and you can say, well, personally, I think it's all about the soul. And I know, and I had a really weird thought this morning, um, which was we seem to come in with a soul imprint. We seem to have made our mind up about certain things already when we've entered this realm. So we come in with almost like an idea of predestination, of who we are going to be, even as babies. And that essence of self comes through, doesn't it?
I agree. I
But
agree. I think it's like I've known children, my own plus their friends, and many children over the years. And you can almost see right from the beginning, if you're really listening and if you're really paying attention, you can see their path ahead quite clearly. And it's in their energy. And children are pure spirit energy until around the age of 7,
yeah,
as far as I'm concerned.
yeah.
And then they start to develop their little personalities, their own individual personalities.
I know my niece, Megan, she used to, when she was about 6, when she first of all woke up in the morning, she used to speak Italian. She's never spoken Italian. She's never been around any Italians and never. But if you caught her at the bedroom in the morning before she woke up, she used to speak Italian. It's really bizarre.
That doesn't surprise me because the only thing it's like the sword and the stone again, Kim. The only thing stopping us from pulling the sword out is our belief that we can.
All right.
I was talking to somebody earlier today and how fluent I am in Spanish when I go to Cuba, and I think it's in the beer. you know, I come home and
You think it's in the beer?
pretty sure it's in the beer because and if other people are traveling there, I can speak their language too. I mean, I think it's magic beer or something. I don't know what that is. If our resistance is down, if just being in a new environment, I don't know what that is. Being a bit vulnerable, not being able to understand everything that they say, but yet still knowing what they're talking about.
And that's pretty amazing because I mean, I lived in France for about 6 months when I was about 15, and I didn't. I mean, they were all speaking English to me, but around me was French everywhere. So I actually learned
Yes.
to understand really well, but I couldn't speak it really. I mean, I could a little bit. And then I'm walking down the street one day, and somebody said to me, "Quelle heure est-il?" And I looked at, which means what time is it? And I looked at my watch and said, "Oh, deux heures moins quart," which means quarter to two. And then I stopped in my tracks and went, "Oh my God, I had my first French thought." I actually didn't translate what he said and didn't go into the whole spiel that, oh, je suis anglaise, I don't really speak English, I don't really speak French. I didn't do any of that. I just thought in French,
Just
looked at my watch and replied in French and went, oh, that was magic. So
did it. There all along.
it was there all along. I just didn't know it.
What
Anyway,
if that's true? I mean, I really do feel that there's a lot there just waiting for us to say, okay, show me.
mm, mm.
If we could open our minds up to being able to pull that sword out of the stone, that's the whole point.
I've
And, the word and the tone, it's all about speaking the right story. It's all about using our throat chakra in a way that creates what we have yet to imagine.
Right. And then there's another component to that, something I've talked about before, which is this word wrote, where you write something over and over and over and over and over again, be it a symbol, or be it a word, or be it a whole passage, right? Or be it a language.
Well, and
But
it's my belief only one dragon needs to sing the song, only one. And the rest, well, that just is that just more powerful.
right.
You know, if
So if
one does it, that's all we need, just one to create that idea. That's where it comes from. It comes from the Imaginarium.
yeah. So with the word, with the concept of rote, so like when you're doing lines in classroom and you're going like, I should not speak in church, I should not swear in church or something. Write that out 100 times or something. I don't know what the religious thing is today I'm going on about, but um that idea that you write something out 100 times and it embeds in your consciousness, right? That's supposedly
Mhm.
where doing lines or rote comes from, but it's supposed to be
Well,
embedding it, right? But
and from a
but
parent's point of view, or even if you have a puppy, how many times do you have to do this? Well, you have to do it until you no longer have to do it and it becomes automatic.
exactly. And we can rewrite our own scripts doing that. We can rewrite our own consciousness. That's how I gave up smoking.
That's the challenge, is to sort of see yourself as a non-smoker and to make the decision, first of all, to be that person.
But
You have to imagine,
I did it through
have to,
rote. I
you did it
reprog
through rote.
I reprogrammed my own mind. I
I've done,
reprogrammed myself.
me too. Not for smoking, but for
Right.
everything else. For my
Yeah.
negative, really made an effort to clean up my story.
Yeah. How did you
Oh,
do it?
and
What was the command?
I I deeply leaned into gratitude. And, and
You,
every time I sit down to write, I start with I am grateful.
all right.
I call forward gratitude and I let it flow from there. It's all about the energy of gratitude for me.
Right.
And seeing the lessons in some of the challenges. And I'll share, maybe I've said it before, but when my own mother passed away, I opted to be in a state of gratitude for the time that we shared. So
Right.
I do think we do have some control. And that's not to say I don't grieve or miss her in that way, but I don't know. We had a very special connection, and I feel that telepathy is real, and it's no different than what we might call a ghostly encounter.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's no different. It's an energy. It's an energy, and if we are energetic, and if we choose to communicate with each other, knowing that there's no barriers, the only barrier is us in our mind thinking that we need a cell phone, or in our mind believing that we need a landline or a post office or, some other way of connecting with one another when we have these heart connections. I mean, how many healers do cord cutting ceremonies?
Yeah. No.
What's that all about? That's not just to cut cords with people on the other side. That's to cut cords with the toxic boyfriend or,
Mm-hmm.
whatever kind of other energy we've exposed ourselves to.
Mm-hmm.
Well, when we create that heart bond with somebody, it's eternal until we say otherwise.
Mm-hmm.
And all we have to do is think high value thoughts about that person and pick up the phone and call them, and they'll say, "Oh, I was just thinking of you."
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's because I was sending high value energy thoughts your way.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I've
I
just
went.
I can't be shown that it doesn't exist.
I went to
I feel it
a
strongly
conf.
that it's no different, one or the other. Like on the death side or on this side, it's the same energy that we're communicating with.
I went to a conference of Abraham Hicks years ago.
Love
Um,
her.
really, the conference was a workshop, and this guy. I'll tell you the story of. It's pretty long, but I'll tell you the story anyway. So this guy gets on set on the stage, and he says he's got a problem because he's split up from his ex-wife, and he's having severe problems with communicating with the children. And part of the problem is that she's allocated him times to visit the kids. And he's working Monday to Friday. He's got weekends off, and she's allocated him to see the kids on weekends. But he says by the time Saturday comes, he's tired. He wants a break. It's maybe not the right time for him to see the kids, but he's doing it anyway, even though it's tired. But the energy feels all wrong for him. And it's like on a Tuesday night, there might be a special festival going on in the local town or something, but you can't see the kids on the Tuesday night when the special festival is going on because his ex-wife is allocating the times when he can visit the children. And he says it's actually putting him off interacting with his own kids. And she said, well, this is all really dense stuff, and I'm going to do an exercise with you in order to lift the vibration of the interaction. So she said, can you tell me a memory how many children you got? Two. Okay, what are they? Girl or boy? Right, one's a girl, one's a boy. All right, the boy, tell me a bit about him. Oh, he's autistic, he's 10 years old, she said, okay, can you tell me a really, really, just that vibrant thing that we were talking about earlier, a moment where your son came alive, where you had an
Yes.
interaction where he animated himself. And he said, well, actually, one week, a few months ago, I took him to the fairground, and he really, really didn't want to go on this big wheel thing. Me and my daughter and him got onto this big wheel. But he said, we got to the top of the big wheel, and he just lit up. He was just like, oh, wow. And I just had this really moment of, and she said, right, I want you to hold that thought. I want you to hold that thought. And that's the only thought I want you to have about your son. And I want you to get a similar thought about your daughter. And I want you to just hold that thought. And I just want you to think about that type of interaction with the kids, that type of moment, and drop everything else and stop seeing the kids for the moment if you want to. Just stop seeing them. Just say, I need a few weeks. And what you'll find is that you're meeting them at the moment in the vibration of suppression because your ex wife is suppressing your own needs and wants in it. Not deliberately or anything, but what you'll do is you'll re-meet at that higher vibration, and something will happen to break the cycle. So the only thought that you're having about them is actually meeting them in that vibration because that's the only vibration that you're thinking about them in.
Correct. And it's just that easy to tell a different story about anything.
Yeah,
Like I said, the death of my mother. Well,
yeah,
what else do I have to pull on in that
yeah,
moment?
yeah,
I can I can pull on the gratitude that I have for the time we shared,
yeah.
you
And that,
know, and really just build on the joy. And in my experience, if you want to have that kind of contact from your loved ones, they always come for a party. So if you keep your spirits high, they keep theirs high as well.
yeah,
And they're automatically programmed to be that way, clearly. And but that's when I feel that they're most apt to show up
yeah,
when you're vibrating at your highest and in a very positive and loving way, like it's
yeah,
been a positive.
yeah.
Now likewise, I've had a couple of experiences with people recently. It seems to be a time to let go of alcohol, so I find that interesting. Suddenly people are rethinking it, but I think part of that is due to the fact that they might be actually um, getting spooked by what they're manifesting with it.
Oh, really?
Does that make sense to you?
Not really come across it, but I don't drink, so I used to. I used to be a big
Yeah.
drinker, but I don't drink anymore. I
Well,
haven't drank for years.
I
Uh,
think that that dark side of alcohol is starting to show itself to people, and it's just interesting to me. Quite a large number of people have expressed an interest in not drinking recently, and
I
I find that very interesting. The timing is curious.
I had a really freaky experience in Bali one time where I went in this big auditorium pub at sunset where everybody was drinking, and I could see all these spirits floating around dark, like they look like dementors in Harry Potter movie. They were swirling around above the auditorium, and they did look like dementors. And it frightened me that much that I actually ran out of the place, and I was I was crying. I, it terrified me, and
I
that
can
was
appreciate, because that's my belief about alcohol, is that the spirit becomes uncomfortable with it at a certain point, and that it actually sort of leaves like a portal for dark energies to come in when the spirit becomes so uncomfortable that it more or less vacates the body, abandons the avatar, if you will.
uh,
And
okay.
yeah, and
And is it
this to me
different?
explains
It's
blackout drunk.
because they call like spirit, like spirits are like I don't know, whiskey and gin and vodka, and they're all the spirits, right? And then you, on the other hand, you've got beer. Is beer this
Correct.
is does beer have the same effect as whiskey, spirit,
It,
the things they call spirit, which is
it's
name
all
and
spirit, and the same with any other kind of plant matter. Most alcohol comes from decomposing plant material. So vodka comes from potato, wine comes from a grape. It's plant matter that's decomposing, it's fermenting and decomposing to a point where it's creating this alcohol, which then is creating this hallucinogenic effect
right,
and opening a port. Oh, and from my point of view, it opens a portal to very dark and low vibrating energies.
yeah. But you got to bear in mind that it's all contained within us. I mean, this idea of being scared of an external spirit it is entirely incorrect thinking. Because
I agree with you. I agree with you. Somebody actually said to me that they said, well, I had this terrible dream. And I said, well, you do know that that was you
yeah,
and that was you. And a little while later, they said, do you think it's because I drink? I
uh,
said, I think you answered your own question.
uh, uh,
I think you already know
yeah,
that that's why this is happening to you.
yeah. And
You know, so
while we're talking about alcohol, I left that frog thing on the screen, and it says,
yes,
and I'm just reading this. Beer was very important commodity in Egypt, and was actually a payment for labor. In God's sense of humor, shutting down beer, making actually shut done all work in Egypt. Oh, one Egyptian word for beer is Heket or Heket, the name of the frog goddess. Back to the
it's really,
frogs.
well,
Um,
and that's the one. She's a little tricky to work with. I know a lot
yeah,
of people,
yeah. The
that's like the
association
dark
with
moon.
beer.
Yeah, and the frog.
Okay. So,
How
right.
in, well, and the witch. So the witch comes to mind. Hex, Hecate, Hex, the witch's frog.
Yeah. Okay. So, right. I'm going to change the subject for a second, and I'm
Sure.
going to go to I've forgotten. I just had an idea and then it went. All right. So I can't remember what it was. Oh, I know. Full moon. The full
Yes.
the full moon's in Aries. Is that correct?
Yes. How exciting.
So that's tomorrow. Is that tomorrow?
What is the date today? I'm a little lost. My
It's
timeline.
28th here, but that means it's the because I'm in Tomorrowland. So it must be
Tomorrowland. So it's, yes, that's right.
27th.
27th. And so 28th tomorrow. And I'm not sure what day is the full moon. I think we have another day or
Let me
so.
have a look. I'll look it up.
Oh.
Full moon in what moon? Full moon what month? September.
So at the moment, it's 16 degrees Pisces. So another day and a half, and it's full.
29th. It's
And
tomorrow for me. It must be tomorrow for you too.
tomorrow
So
for us too.
it's a super moon. It's always a super moon these days. Every time I look at the thing, it says it's a super moon, and it always says it's nearest point to Earth. So for some reason, I keep on reading this. I keep on reading every month that it's a super moon. I don't know. Okay,
I don't know why. I keep hearing that too. And we saw a really peculiar moon. The moon is very close to the Earth right now. And here in Canada, we're seeing it right as after the sun sets. And it's further and further away from the west now. But it's shortly after the sun is setting that you'll see the moon in.
I lost you. You went mute. Something happened. Something happened to your sound. Don't know what's going on there. Um, okay. I lost Ginger, and I either lost her completely. I'm gonna have to stop share so I can. Oh, she's gone. She's lost her signal. Okay. So she'll be back shortly. I think she should be able to rejoin. So she'd taken some pictures a few weeks ago that she's going to talk about, but we'll come back to that after she comes back. A couple of weeks ago. So what I was going to say about the full moon is the full moon's in Aries and it's tomorrow. So from what I gather, the full moon always accentuates the or shines a light on the negative side of that sign from within us. There she goes. She's back. She's back. Hi. We can see you.
Hi, that's
So
okay. I don't know what happened. It's a
um
little dark in here. That's why I kept mine off.
okay. All right.
Not very good
Um
lighting.
so all right. Well, you sent me some photographs, right? I think I stopped
I
sharing. You got
did.
this. I got to share screen. You sent me some photographs of the moon, and I'll try and bring them up. Um, it was up here. Oh, that's the thing I made. I made um a macrame thing the other day. That's my deck, and that's my planting, my macrame thing that I made. That I was very happy about. Anyway,
Beautiful. Really
this
nice. I'd like to learn more, but I'd like to learn to do that.
this is the moon that Ginger was talking about. So she'd gone to a different you'd gone to a place over out in the country, yeah? And there's a lake there.
Correct. This is overlooking Lake Huron, actually, and the moon is setting, and it's setting in a new location all of a sudden because this was just the day before the equinox. So normally it would be a little more to the northwestern sky, but the moon has been acting really, really peculiar in Canada, and we're seeing her show things that most of us are not used to seeing. If we're really paying attention to the moon right now, she's in a different position. The typical moon phases that we're used to seeing, well, they're not so typical. They've been tilted. And a number of people have actually talked about feeling unbalanced and tipping off to the right. We may
Mm,
have talked about that before in another video, but
mm.
anyway, all of that's very interesting. But year after year, we watch as the what do they call it? The analema. So the moon takes her position as we move into the autumn months and then winter. So now she's heading into the southwestern sky, and the sun will soon follow.
Okay. So can you talk about the negative side of Aries for a sec? What?
Uh, the negative side of Aries, if speaking about the mineral for Aries is Kali phosphoricum, and that brings light into the mind. So you can imagine the opposite of that is to have a very dark-minded individual, somebody who can be quite, full of self-loathing and subsequently loathing for everything and everyone.
So
Not to,
let me
I don't want
interrupt
to
for a
be
second because
hard on the Aries because I think the Aries can also be quite wise and creative
let,
and
let me
full
interrupt.
of, yes.
So this is the negative side of what's in us in relation to Aries that I think we're going to experience in the next month. So we may experience this feeling of self-loathing that we
Oh
don't
yes,
that we can't actually factor it. We can't understand why it's there, And
correct.
it's just as long as we understand where it's coming from, I think that gives us comfort. For me anyway. As
Yes,
I
this
get a lot of thoughts of self-loathing in general.
well, and I think that the mineral will help with a lot of that because that is one of the symptoms I feel,
Right.
for the mind to be less lit. And we want to bring light into the body. Remember, we talked about how 5 of the 12 essential minerals are phosphoricums,
Yeah.
and the phosphorus is all about the light.
Yeah.
And so to have this light body energized, it's important to have those minerals, and particularly the one for Aries, because that is the mind.
Okay. And what's that mineral? What's that called?
It's Kali,
Cali.
which is, that's another sort of suggestive word. If you know anything
Yeah,
about
I do. Yeah.
yeah,
Yep.
so then the Kali Yuga, so
Yeah.
it's Kali,
Mm-hmm.
and the Kali, and there's that Ka again. We talk about the Merkaba,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Car. Car.
right?
Mm.
Kali phosphoricum.
Phosphoricum.
Yes, and the other one is magnesium phosphoricum or phosphorus.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, and I don't have my, I'm not that. Oh, yes, I do have it. Just yeah, the five of the 12 are phosphoricums. So it's all about bringing light and energy into the body.
Mm-hmm. Which is something I think right now, uh, I have to continuously remind myself it's very difficult to use higher thinking right now. I have to kind of, I can do it through breath work somewhat,
Yes.
breathing in and then breathing out and centering on the breath. I can bring myself back by centering on the breath. But I find that this particular era, it's very easy to fall into I don't like this world. It's
Well, and especially if we're around other people that don't like this world,
yeah,
because we become what we spend our time around, especially if we're not out there shielding ourselves.
yeah,
It's very important for us to put our avatar into safe mode when
right,
we're around other people, And but there's something that I've learned recently. The breath really does help to clear the mind and the
yeah,
monkey mind thoughts, and
yeah,
because we can get really creative, even when we're in a creative flow. Whoa, it can go too fast sometimes. How do I slow it down? Well, the breath can do that, and going for a walk can do that. Drinking some water can help with that.
mhm.
But I've learned something new recently. I wonder what my next thought will be. And as I say that, everything gets quiet. I wonder what I wonder what my next thought will be. And it's as though these energetic thought forms see themselves as being exposed. It's like catching
Mm,
the ghost, like the ghost
mm,
realizes you just saw
mm,
me. How did
mm,
you see?
I
So
like
it's like
it.
right? The ghost in our mind is suddenly
Yeah,
aware
yeah.
that
It's like,
you're paying,
oh, we better hide. She saw us.
right? And now you line them up. Now that they're quiet, right? I wonder what my
Ah,
next thought will be. And now that they know you're watching, right?
yeah,
This is maybe crazy, but I mean, this has been my experience with it. It,
yeah,
it creates a state of silence.
yeah.
And then with that, I've gone into, all right, who's first? And then the most important thought form will come forward because these are just messengers, right?
Right, right.
They're just messengers and they're trying to deliver a message to us. It's just an energy.
You want to talk a little bit about that pink moon we've got on the screen there? That orange
Yeah.
moon. That
I was happy to
red.
not be alone when that picture was taken. I didn't actually take that picture. Somebody else with me took that photo. So I give credit to my friend. And I was grateful to not be alone because we watched as that moon was just so remarkably close to the earth. And we had watched it for a few hours. So throughout the day, we could see it and moving across the sky, headed west, just like the sun and all the other planets do. And and then we watched as it appeared to go into the water. I pulled up my Stellarium app, which shows us where the planets are supposed to be at this moment, and it showed that the moon was below the horizon. Well, from our proximity, no, it has to be in the water.
The moon has to be in the water.
I mean, it was just a pretty exhilarating moment
Mm,
because I mean it's a vast lake. This lake is not a small lake, it's an ocean.
yeah.
It really is. I feel that very strongly that all these waters were once one water, and some of it's salted because it sits at the bottom of the container.
Well, I think that salt is a component of connectedness. I don't know. It's a component that connects us all on a soul level. Sea salt.
Well, it's part of the principalities. It's one of the three main components. Um, oh, I wish I had a better memory, but salt is definitely part of who we are.
Yeah.
And
That's what I mean. I think it's part of what connects us electric. It's got something to do with the I'm just talking out my arse here, by the way. I've got no idea what I'm
well,
talking about.
I no,
And
but I think you're right.
just
I think you're
channeling it.
absolutely
I'm just channeling it because I don't know anything about it scientifically, but I'm feeling that it's got some vital connection in relation to the very thing you were talking about earlier, which is like this psychic connection that we've all got. Or I think that it's got something to do with the salt, and I think the electricity, the aliveness, the lit up, the fired, the wired, the that's got all to do with the salt as well.
oh,
And
I agree.
maybe the salt in our body gets depleted because the medical society would have us reduce our salt intake.
Well, yes, and they'd have us urinate it all out by drinking 10 gallons of water a day.
Yeah, yeah,
There's no reason for us to drink such an excessive amount of water
yeah,
or any other beverage. You know,
yeah,
it's absolutely unnecessary.
yeah,
It's so important for us to learn to really weigh in and ask our body, what do you need
yeah,
right now?
exactly. It's about
Learn
self.
to become, yeah,
None
yes, it's
none of
that
us are
inside
experts.
job.
We none of
Inside
us.
job.
Yeah, it's an inside job. We're not experts. We don't know what we're talking about, but
No.
individually we can all go our own way and have our own feelings
Well,
about how we feel about stuff and light ourselves up, ignite
that's
ourselves.
right. And empower one another. Like, I think it's so unusual for people to say, hey, that lady that we were talking to, she's an amazing artist. And,
Mm,
to really boost other people,
mm,
why can't we? It's
mm.
kind of a rare thing, I find.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah,
but meanwhile, I mean, I know some pretty amazing people.
yeah,
I think it's important for us to boost each other,
yeah.
and by doing that, we put that energy into the
Love
multiverse
it.
for one another.
Love
Yeah,
it.
we put it out there. We empower each other.
Yeah,
And we get to show people that we can see that part that you think is
yeah,
hidden, that
yeah.
you think this dark world
The,
can't see,
the bit
but
that's
it's so
lit up.
important for you. Yeah,
Yeah,
keep glowing. Just
yeah.
keep glowing. Don't
Keep
stop.
emitting. Keep
Yeah,
emitting.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I like speaking of experts, we're not experts, but Dr. Barbara O'Neill is.
Mm,
And I like what she has to say about salt
mm.
and uh, and
Yeah.
and just natural ways of healing. It's just all very common sense, practical approach. And I find if it's simple and easy to explain and understand, then it's more likely true.
I was watching one of her videos, and one of the problems I've got with water is sometimes when I drink water, I get thirsty. I don't know if anybody else has this problem, but I drink water, I get thirsty. But I was watching one of her videos, and she was talking about just getting a tiny little bit of Celtic sea salt and putting it on your tongue before you have a drink of
Yes,
water. And that way
correct.
you're replenishing the salt at the same time as replenishing the water. And I thought,
Yes.
that's very interesting.
And restoring your electricity because we are
Yeah,
electromagnetic beings of
yeah,
light.
yeah.
So how can we emit a light if we've got our lights dimmed?
I agree.
And the salt is lighting us up.
Right, now, have you got anything else you want to talk about before we cut it off?
I just think it'd be interesting to see what the next level's going to bring. I think I don't know. It'll be whatever we think it'll be. Is I really do think that we are creating,
Yeah.
and I know that it seems as though we don't have a whole lot of control, and but I feel opposite. I feel that we do have a tremendous amount of control in our story. In fact, I've been wondering as we're in this year of the chariot, I wonder what my next thought will be.
Mm.
No, but I've been wondering, um, we appear to be victims of the planets and the moon and this type of, if this is what we want to call these energies, right? Planets.
Luminaries, yeah.
We're,
Luminaries.
yeah, and we look and we try to predict what's coming up and what might happen.
Oh,
But
sorry.
what
Okay.
if we, what if we turn the tables? And what if we work with those energies and, try to reach the best possible outcome with with that card that we're handed? Does that make sense?
Yeah, but there's something I wanted to show you. Random stars and somatics. What you were talking about. There was a video that I wanted to share. Um,
Yes. I was hoping you would. It's pretty cool.
this is I'm just gonna get rid of the sound off that. What it's talking about here is that's Venus blowing up.
Yeah,
Um,
and you can see that on a lot of you have a cell phone that will show you these images.
yeah,
And you can see that it's just a gas bubble or a water bubble or some kind of an energy bubble.
yeah,
It does not appear to be a hard surface, as
no,
we've been told.
no.
But it certainly seems to have a story, and the story is told in many, many ways.
It's an imprint. It's like God's footprint or something, or God's hand, like
The
it's an
fingerprint,
imprint,
yeah,
a fingerprint.
and
I
a
just wanted to
fractal.
share a fractal. It's really weird. I mean, what we have been taught is it's not, I don't think, anyway, that's a
Well,
big
they tell
question.
us we're finite when we're infinite,
Yeah, exactly.
you know. And so,
Yeah,
but I
they
do think that we
minimalize
have
us.
opportunities, just like I work with the energy of the moon. Okay, today's a good day for, like today in Pisces, it would be a good day to plant greens,
Right,
watery plants, but not necessarily a good day for pruning or harvesting because your crop will rot
right,
if you cut when the moon is in a water sign.
right.
You'll get the crop, but it won't keep as long.
Mm. This is
So
part,
to be, it's just like learning more about astrology as we move along,
yeah,
and just observing, like, is there any truth in the story that they're telling us? Can we observe it? What is this all about? How does it, what will, so in the past, we had the story of the Bible, we've had stories of Egyptians, Mayans, Aztecs. They're all telling the same story,
hmm
including an Immaculate Conception.
hmm
They're all telling the same story over and over again, right
hmm
down to the time of year. And to
hmm
me, it's the story of the seasons,
hmm
and it's the story of nature.
Oh,
So, how do we learn to be in that flow of energy if it's so predictable?
I don't know.
Why not use it to our advantage? Why not learn when to turn up the volume and when to be in that waxing state, waxing or waning like the moon?
Mm, mm,
Is that something that, I just think that that's where we're headed. We're going to learn more and more about how to not be the victim of these energies any longer, but to
yeah,
take command of the chariot and to take command of those energies. Because I don't think that they should be in command of us. I think that we are the commanders of this ship.
yeah, I agree.
So yeah, it's interesting. I don't think that we have final say over our destiny, Kim, but I do think that we have a tremendous amount of say in how the story plays out.
I mean, oh, it was Pete that came over this morning and he was just, he explained it far better than I did what his
Yeah,
thinking was. And I should have recorded what he said because it was really quite profound. But basically, I agreed with him in relation to, I think that our soul has a particular script that it comes here with the intention of playing out. And it just gives us an appearance of having the choices. It gives us an appearance of, I think that it's actually predestination, that we're predestined. But maybe I'm wrong, and I might change my mind about that tomorrow.
Well, I do think we can alter course because, like, we can have a premonition, kind of like, okay, what's that movie with the past, present, future, this when and the Scrooge guy, what is it, the nightmare? What is I can't remember the names of these shows, these stories, but like the Ghost of Christmas Past, the Ghost of Christmas Future.
Christmas Carol.
So yes,
It's
thank
called
you.
it's a Charles Dickens novel called The
So
Christmas Carol, but
they
I don't think I've ever seen the movie of it.
Yeah, yeah, no, I think I have a few times actually. It's been remade and told over and over and over. But really what is symbolic there is that it's all happening at once.
Yeah, yeah.
It's all happening at once. It lives in that person's imagination, and they were able to alter course. Like the future looked kind of grim. But then when they were shown what the choices that they're making would do, they altered course and became quite generous and kind and loved by everyone.
So it's like one of Nigel's favorite movies was Groundhog Day. And I
Oh
said,
yeah.
"Oh my God, I hated that movie. It's as boring as shit." And he said,
Yes.
"Have you watched it recently?" And I went, "No, I must have watched it like 20 years ago, 25 years ago or something, right?" But
Mhm.
I mean, I wanted to turn it off because it's just bored shitless. And he goes, "No, no, no, it's really good because it shows how the choices the guy's making are changing his day, and he gets to relive the same scene, and he gets to be a different person throughout it. In order to break out of it, he learns to be a bigger person." And he was like, "This is a mini representation of life. We're just
I
repeating the
agree.
same thing over and over and over and over again until we actually get it, or we get to where we're meant to be with it, or
I agree.
we get to." And I'm not necessarily talking about being a good person here. It isn't
No,
necessarily good, or it isn't even necessarily
it,
best. It's just
it just is good and bad.
it
You
just
do you, boo.
it,
I'm not judging anybody.
okay.
Hey,
Good, good.
like we had just established, like
Yeah,
there's good is good, but good is also bad, depending
yeah,
on who you ask.
yeah, exactly. Right. I'm cutting it off. Thank you for being
I
here
think
with
we
me.
covered it. It's a big spiral, and we get to do it again and again.
We do.
And we get to make the most of it. That's, I think, the good news. We get to choose to be at a higher vibration if that's what we want.
Exactly.
If we really want it, then we'll have it. We just have to aim for it and decide that that's mine. And
So
we can raise our vibration.
thank you for listening, everybody. Comment as usual below if you want to. And hopefully we'll be back soon.
Much love, everyone. Bye for now.
Bye.